Alright, hello and welcome. So, let's talk a little bit more about Hydroid. He has received some further changes, some very big changes, let's say. So, you might remember in that previous video, we talked about adding percentile damage to his 3. Well, DE seems to have very much enjoyed that idea, and I saw that being kicked around by quite a few people, and they added percentage damage to his 3. And I believe I recommended, say, 1% or so in that video. Pretty sure I'm recalling that correctly. They decided to add 2% that scales with power strength, which turns out is significantly more than 1%. This also is percentile damage that is scaling percentile, which is very strong, as it turns out. There is, however, a small catch in that Undertow was changed from finisher damage, which ignores armor and shields, into impact damage, which does not ignore those. So, to get to your now massive amount of damage with Hydroid, you have to strip armor. Thankfully, Hydroid has access to a very good armor stripping tool, for groups even, with his augment to his 1. So, the combination of an augmented 1 from Hydroid and his 3 means that you can kick out a very large amount of damage now. So we're going to show that off. As it is... Oh, I already have them spawned. It is very effective. So we're going to take these enemies, and we're going to put them in Undertow. And you're going to see that scaling damage. And it's, honestly, not terrible. And it's going up at a good rate. But, if we then use his 1 and strip some armor, it goes up very quickly. Very quickly. And kills all of them. Turns out, this is a very potent weapon now that I like a whole lot. It really, gives you a bigger reason to be in your 3 and get enemies into that, and just, zoop them all up, do a bunch of damage. It also does scale with more percentile damage as you get more enemies inside it, which is a wonderful thing. And it's just overall very good. With the amount of percentile damage they added, it is worth noting that that amount is a hell of a lot. And to put that into perspective, if his 3 was at his previous range, it would be fucking broken. So, I don't think anymore that his 3 needs its old range back, as that would be absolutely ridiculous. That would just be dumb if Hydroid could do that. His 3 is now a much more functional ability, and gives you a bigger reason to be in it rather than just hiding, which I very much appreciate. However, there is one little nitpick that I would put under the category of, polish and game flow, in that it would improve Hydroid significantly in terms of, the amount of fun and how many actions you have at your disposal, at a time to still remain effective, if that makes sense. In that, and it's the same thing that I complained about minorly and thought was a bug in my previous video, if you have enemies enter your Undertow and you move away from them, they escape your Undertow. This is a really unfortunate thing, because for me personally, I think Hydroid would be incredibly valuable to a squad if what he was doing was, say, using his 2 to zoop up a bunch of enemies, and then, seeing another group, or maybe, using his click whenever he is in Undertow to zoop up a little more, and then move on and bring all those enemies with him, and occasionally he will bring some of them, and continue doing damage to the group that he has taken into his puddle. Unfortunately, it is not currently working in that way, as much as I would love for that to be the case. So right now, once you have a bunch of enemies in his puddle, you're kind of stuck where you are, and can't really use the synergy between his 3 and his 2 that I like so much, which is a bit unfortunate. I would really like to see just that little tiny change, and then I think Hydroid would actually be pretty much perfect where he is right now. There were a few other changes made in that he has a higher energy cap now, which is very nice. I suspect the Hydroid Prime would have even more energy, which would be awesome. And also, his 4 received a minor change, but is really big for quality of life on his 4. Well, they'll be back. That one spawned in the air. Anyway, okay. These guys, okay, yeah, these guys got grabbed now. You can see the tentacles swing them around much slower now, which makes it a lot more convenient for you and your teammates just to be able to shoot them when they're being affected by the tentacles. This is not a massive change, and doesn't really change, like, almost at all how your 4 actually works, but is a really nice, like, quality of life thing to make it easier for you to eliminate enemies that are under the effects of your 4. So, with that, if they change that one little thing that enemies can escape your 3, I think Hydroid would actually be, like, truly, like, kind of perfect, honestly. But as it stands right now, he's very, very good, and for me personally has moved up to an A- in rank, which is a very, very significant upgrade from his previous D ranking. But yeah, I hope that they change that one little thing, and I think that he would become a lot more active of a puddle, which I've seen a lot of other people having the feedback that his 3 is still too passive, but if he could drag the enemies along with him, I think it would entirely alleviate that. And he would be a very, very active puddle. Although I actually suppose that my current build, which is this, if you could drag enemies around, I would actually have to change this some more to add some more duration so that I could move around further, which would be a bit interesting. But yeah, Hydroid's in a solid spot right now. I'm really happy with the changes that they made. And, like, good on them for listening to a bunch of feedback. This has been really awesome to play around with. But yeah, I will see all of you guys tomorrow.